on LAN in tier 1, but they are right there. The improvements have been massive. The wins they've had
Zot pralla, shihet tashmë dhe time-outi tjetër për Bad News Eagles. Seneri definitivisht super lojtar në super të realizoja double kill me vetëm një 5-7. Pra ja, momenti I qazës në eliminim ndaj Snapit dhe Dihas. Por Rigoni pa dashje në atë moment eliminon Senerin. Tashmë një stack në B-side nga ekipa jon Bad News Eagles. Pra gjithë ekipa në atë pozicion kur Undër përgjigja e Ends team që po drejtohen për në A-side me një full execute 4 lojtar nga ana e tyre dhe vetëm Nerds që shëndron në hold të midit.
They're just going to stick to their guns, follow through. When you're this deep, you kind of go, okay, yeah, they pistol stack B. That's all well and good. We can
Shojmë edhe smokin. Tashmë në drejtim të konektorit, full control nga kundërshtarët, e që tashmë Bad News Eagles janë vetëm në hold, në anën tjetër për ndonjë exit kill. Pozita e T-spawn eliminohet edhe sinopsin nga Nerds. Diha në Senerin.
Shouldn't be an exit here for BNE available.
Vazhdojnë edhe sekondat e bombës. Vjeç me vetëm 4 HP. E shojmë atë Snapi nuk ka të ndalur. Një plotësim I ekonomisë në drejtim të ekipës Ends me këtë Mac-10 kill. Një pikë tjetër tashmë nga kundërshtarët.
Do wonders for you on a T-half, and so having him in this form, keeping up appearances from a very, very strong challenger stage for this guy, and doing right by what he said in the interview in terms of how, you know, there has been more attention on Madden being allowed to make plays again.
12 me 7 kjo rezultat në favor të Ends, pra jemi 5 pikë larg sikur të ndëruar dhe vetëm një round I fituar në City. 3 lojtarë në afërsi të midit, sinopsi në hold prej heaven. Do e shohim këtë aksion. Vazhdon aty Madden do t'jetë ai cili lëshon një molotov në drejtim të Sinopsit. Sinopsi nuk ka ndonjë eliminim. Gjax për 3, Gjax aty në double. Seneri në Dihan. 4-2 tashmë situata. Madden në low HP. Eliminohet Madden. Sampajos në kill ndaj Senerit prej B main position një super nga Bad News Eagles. E pam edhe në atë angle Gjax momenti I duhur nga ana e tij. Prej pozitës së konektorit arritja double kill të shpejt Genci. E që tashmë ky aksion ende vazhdon për Ends team. Sampajos në eliminim tjetër ndaj Rigonit. Ka dhe C4 me vete kundërshtari jon spanjoll Sampajos apo main AWP-ja e Ends team. Do shohim
even grander proportions here to try and make a decisive victory for Ends. Bad News Eagles haven't started to rotate around.
40 sekonda ko Spanjolli që ta gjej edhe plantin e bombës në pozitën e offside ku po realizon tashmë këtë plan Sampajos. Shohim Flatro dhe Gjax për një retake në pozitën e konektorit dhe under heaven. Sampajos në sandbags një molotov I saktë aty nga Genci dhe për shëndetit Sampajos pika e te që kusë të ndëruar për Bad News Eagles. A do të kemi një rikthim apo jo? Gjax që shkëlqej në këtë round, kuat kill nga ana Gencit. E dal nga dal të shohim se çka do ndodh në roundet që do t'jenë në vazhdim nga Ends dhe Bad News Eagles. Ja pra kjo triple kill I shpejt I Gencit dhe në fund në përmbyllje të roundit me quad kill.
And they stay in it, they stay above water, they don't let end streak more than 3.
Dhe gjatë pra dhe sinopsi me një call, djem ta fitojmë këtë round sepse next round nuk kanë fare lek.
Always cuts you off. Not only good to dispel a Molotov, insta B, but the AWP cannot hang around. You're going to get one way, you're going to get crept under.
GX
Means GXX has to go elsewhere.
e lëshon pasajtin tashmë i vetëm merceneri në atë pozit.
Go for an A.
Dy lojtarë që po afrohen në B-main janë nga End Steamer, Snapi dhe Diha, Nerds në hold të midit e dyshja tjetër, Sampajos dhe Madden po shihen tashmë në pozitën e rampës. Një wallbang damage i madh që e shkaktoi këtë vet kundërshtari jon Snapi në drejtim të snerit. Sinopsi tashmë në ndim të snerit. Me C4 po shihet edhe rikthimi për në full exekutim në B-side. Vetëm një fake nga Madden. Do të kemi një execute në pasaj që kusht të ndëruar ku në hold janë vetëm snerit sinopsi. E shojmë edhe një rotate të flatros. Snapi foot position, Diha në Molotov për quad. Sampajos me flashes, Seneri, eliminot nga Snapi, vazhdon aty, sinopsi me një tentim, flatron në trade. 4-3 kjo situatë në favor të Ends, vazhdon ky ekzekutim deri në fund. Nerds në eliminim të Rigonit, flatro ende në hold, flatro me një tjetër, e flatro jon! Triple kill i flatros, GX me ndonjë kill apo jo, ishte një tentim nga agenci, GX aty, e shojmë, GX! Një super tjetëron nga agenci shikus të ndëruar! Beti me e dëgjoll! Në këtë round me agencin ton të dashur, një tjetër klasë nga princesha jon! No scope kill nga agenci, e shojmë edhe njëre! Momentin e bukur të Mejno dhe poston GX dhe gëzimi malati të krikon dhe flatro. Presim një rikthim të malë që kusht të ndruar. Po presim një rikthim të malë këtu nga Bad News Eagles. E mos të lejojmë këtë mix team apo organizatën Ends që të vazhdojnë në Legend Stage me një fitore nga në atyre, por tjetë bëne ajo e cila do të triumfoj deri në fund.
Because even though GXX wins it in the 1v2, which is really well played, the only reason he gets to attempt that round is because of what Flatro is able to offer up in defensive B. His two teammates got melted, and I was actually watching like his POV throughout the entire thing. He wanted to fight on so many occasions.
12 minutë. Ishte një kohë nga sinopsi që nuk do të kishin lek ekipa kundërtare, por që në fakt e pam Sampajos ishte ai i cili arriti realizimin e plentit të bombës dhe kjo ja ndihmoi por një ekonomi të mirë edhe ekipës kundërtare Ends. Do e shohim këtë round. Një ekzekutim tashmë për në offside nga pesja e Ends team në entry position që vazhdon të jetë Madden. Dhe shohim këto smoka dhe molotova e në anën tjetër Rigon që tenton me një solo pik aty. Eliminot Rigon nga Madden. E shohim Sinops Flatro dhe GX në pozitën e Underhaven. Nerds në eliminim të sënirit. Hapët edhe B-side nga kundërshtari Nerds. Sinops aty, shumë bukur e gjenë eliminimin ndaj tij. Do t'jetë një rrezik i madh kjo, Flatro në eliminim tjetër. Nuk kam fare info për Madden. 3-2 situata në favor të Ends, por që eliminot ekipa jon deri në fund dhe pika e 13 nga Ends team. E po se si patëm një call nga Rigon dhe GX. Tentoj ekipa jon me atë flash pick për Rigonin që ta eliminojnë ndoshta dhe lojtarin e parë, ku ishte edhe Madden në afërsitë e Rigonit, por kjo nuk arriti ndodh në momentin e duhur dhe në favor të Rigonit për ta gjetë edhe atë eliminim. Full buy nga Bad News Eagles. Është një
brings Bad News Eagles back
Gamble
into the
round
round.
këtu, të themi shkurt që kusë të ndëruar.
But we have seen some jumpy flanks from Nerds in this game. Mainly because he got away with them in the early
Shkurt
half.
e shqip ekipa jon ka raskirat deri në fund me 5 pistoleta, por në full buy që ta gjejnë ndoshta edhe pikën e 10 apo t'ja lejojmë ekipës kundërtare pikën e barazimit. Maten eliminim ndaj Gjetsit. Rigon Rigon që tenton një eliminim tjetër. Rigon Sampajës diha në double kill. 3-2 situata nga Ents. Nerds është ky lojtar apo Larkeri i ekipës kundërtare që po vazhdon lojën e tij në çdo round në pozitën e mitit. E shohim Seneri. Eliminim ndaj Maten. Baba Çazim. Çazati. Një tentim tjetër në Dihan, nuk arrin një double kill Seneri. Është i vetëm tashmë flatro kundër dyshës Diha dhe Nerds. Ka një AK në duart e tij flatra. Realizohet edhe plente i bombës tashmë nga kundërtari jon Diha.
Nats can just play on timings here. He doesn't need to bring the fight to Flatro. He can just wait for him to cross on in to his crosshair. And he'll do exactly that.
Nerds
Nice and
në
easy from the
momentin e
spawn,
dorë.
Ents onto 14.
Me një pik,
And the money
arrin
is gone
eliminimin
for Bad
ndaj
News
Flatros dhe
Eagles.
pika e 14 nga kundërshtarët Ents. Tjetër timeout.
Might be
Shojmë edhe
beginning of the end for BNE in this matchup.
e Dihas.
Hands.
Ka arriti edhe hapjen
Faced with
e
a very
lojës.
awkward decision right now. You know, do you eco, play around rifles, try to chain together 6 in a row? Devilwalk is wide-eyed, trying to input his advice down the line onto the team. And it looks like they will go for the eco, looking to play the full 30-round game. It's going to leave no room for error. Bad News Eagles have got to be flawless from this point on in. After this little eco round, never mind, they put money in last second.
Damn.
They started with just a P2, everyone else was eco around it.
14-9, vetëm 2 raunde larg ekipa kundërtare përfitore e Bad News Eagles që nuk po ndalet, vazhdon përsëri me një full buy në pistoleta. Rrezik i madh por ne shikues të ndëruar. Por që shpresojmë me vetëm një round që të rikthehemi deri në fund. Sinops aty, shumë bukur me një one tap në snapin. Eliminohet kundërtari Danez.
Leans back after a shot like that.
Në këtë pozit
So Ents are just going to group.
janë lëshuar qysh nga fillimi ekipa kundërtare Ents.
There is resistance after all.
Ja, pra momenti sinopsi këtu ku avëllot koka e Danezit.
Maybe. Damn right, Snappy.
Full tilt, Snappy.
That's unreal. Backup ramp silent the whole way.
Ende në hold janë ekipa jon.
Until they announce
Po
the
vazhdon
names,
tashmë
it's
ky
Molly,
ekzekutim nga
by
Ents team.
Rigon.
Rigon me këtë jiggle. E lëshon një molotov Rigon.
On his own.
Vazhdojnë me një tentim aty me wallbangs, por është Nerdza i cili arrin të eliminoj Rigonin.
Regon, that is the last thing
Nuk e prisni mat push solo të Nerdzit.
time that molly perfectly.
It's too late.
And Nerds
Ju
didn't
largua
respect
molotovit,
the
Nerdz
names
vazhdon
right
kjo
here,
aksion
but they
gjithçka
missed
barabart
it.
4 kundër 4.
And so Ents in a 4v4 post.
Vetëm Nerdz është ai i cili po shndron në pozitën e gepit, treshja tjetër në ramp. E shohim këtë aksion, Maten eliminim në sinopsin, Nerdz në Sener, Sampajës në Flatron. GX në pozitën e headshotit ku eliminohet tashmë nga lojtari nga Izraeli Nerdz dhe pika e barazimit me point në drejtim tek kundërshtarët Ents.
Yeah, I love that idea, but GXX was not there in time when the plant came in. They were meant to double nade the plant, and then you can often win those rounds by rushing back in, catching, the T's confused, grab a gun. You don't even need to recommit, but just it's a free kill on a planter if they don't fake it
Tjetër
out.
timeout
And
dhe
one
është
day
timeouti
lands,
i
that's
fundit.
great damage, and then the second one's
Pra sa i përket
3 or
kësaj
4
mape
seconds
vertigo
later.
nga
Late.
Bad News
So,
Eagles.
if they actually nade the plant there, it's a very different round for BNE. Slight mistake costs them a lot, and the final timeout, the final chat with Devilwalk. I do like the effect he's had on this team. He's telling us how, when they go to prac rooms, he writes on the whiteboard, "You deserve nothing," and not in a disheartening way, but in a motivating way. You have to earn everything. every spot of the major, every match win in a legend stage. Keep in mind, BNE, they run through challenges. They've done it 3-0. But when they hit legends, they've only won one
Gjithçka është live tash për shikues të nderuar.
two majors they've played. That was against FaZe.
Çka kena mujt me ble, kena ble, çka s'kena mujt. Respekt e pafund. Tentim nga Synops, po ashtu edhe nga Flatra në afërsitë të midit. Eliminim në dyshën ton nga Nerds dhe Sampajës.
Finding impact on these mid lurks, but this is not one of those rounds. Scenario
Edhe që arrin eliminimin ndaj kundërshtarit Nerds.
Small portion of the map. It's just up through a ramp for one of these A players. But look at where
Tashma Madden që ka arrit futet në A-side, Dia në anën tjetër në Gitsin. I vetëm është scenari 1-3.
And so with just Scenari left, 1v3 and so much ground taken by Ents, he's checking angles as he moves in through middle. They could be in CT, they could be in elevator. Every corner he goes around. He's got to check everything.
Duart e tij Qaza. Madden në under heaven position. Eliminon nga Scenari. Sambex qëndron Dia. Scenari me një tentim tjetër. Përfundon që s'ka shikues të nderuar. Hupët mapa e parë në rrugtimin ton për në major. Legend Stage, fitoria e parë nga Ents 16-9. Do të shihemi më vonë nga ora 8 në mbrëmje besoj, sepse do të kemi edhe një lojë tjetër nga Bad News Eagle sot. Kështu që rrini me ne në gjitha rrjetet sociale, follow Bad News Eagles pages. E në anën tjetër, edhe njëre pra mos harroni X-Coins, vendi për buy and sell Bitcoin and Tether me një provizion 1.8% me emrin e Gjocit. Bashkë edhe në Matek, viskësa, mos të harroj me cek sponsorin e Bad News Eagles Matek, pra një kompani e certifikume me CE, pra gjitha produktet original 100% direkt prej Gjermanis, bilda, monitora, mausa, dëgjuse, gjithçka rreth gaming, Matek, viskës.com, vendi i duhur për pajisje të gamingit. Ju falenderit shumë për subscribe, për follows, për donate. Nuk patëm fat në mapën Vertigo, presim një fitore tjetër në ndeshjen e radhës që do ta ketë BNE-ja sot. Besoj në ora 7 apo 8. Në mbrëmje
a solid sweep through this entire stage. Another potential
Ndërkohë po e bëjmë një check të shpejt.
As we mentioned during the game, do feel like the one
Pra sonte në ora 11 të natës, jo në 8, po 11 shikues të nderuar, ju kërkoj falje sepse po ka ndryshim të orareve non-stop. Do të kemi edhe një lojë tjetër të rrezikshme që po na pret, pra është ekipa kundërshtare G2 me dy lojtar serb të Bosnës, pra Niko dhe Hunter, JKS, Hoxi dhe Monesi. Themi shkurt, njoni prej snajperistave më të mirë në botë, pra talenti Monesi, lojtari nga Rusia, që po pretendon edhe të bëhet ndoshta një ditë lojtari më i forti në botë, shumë shpejt Monesi. Pra këta do të jenë kundërshtarët tanë sonte shikues të nderuar, shihemi në ora 11 të natës sot apo ndoshta edhe më herët. Rrini me ne në të gjitha rrjetet sociale, follow Bad News Eagles pages, Facebook, Instagram dhe po ashtu në Twitter. Ju falenderit krejtve edhe njëre. Çka na ka mbet, vetëm shpresojmë për një fitore, ndoshta në ekipën kundërtare G2, sepse me Ents përfundoi gjithçka. Do të shihemi më vonë, ndoshta pak para orës 11, do të jemi live me Bad News Eagles dhe G2 Esport. Për juve maraklive të skinave, e po ashtu edhe të Clash ZZ's, rrini me ne sepse shumë shpejt do e bëjmë share tashmë edhe case battle apo free case battle. E lusim Mazerën aty me bo share edhe referral linkin ku bëhet use edhe kodi i gjocit në Clash ZZ. Kena me bo tashmë një free case battle për gjithë fansat. Për gjithë ata që e kam përdor, do me thonë tek butoni deposit affiliate kodin e kësoqit, mundeni me marrë pjesë në këtë free case battle, e po ashtu edhe në free promo bonus code që jep edhe sajti Clash ZZ's, pra coina free deri 100 coina.
Mirë se veni djem, kejt për gjocët djem. Mirë se veni kejt. Për ata që së më njohin, unë jam Genci, jam streamer, po punoj kështu edhe me montaj, ma herët kum punu edhe në RTK, në Radio Televizionin e Kosovës si montazher. Për momentin jam master të studiu edhe që ka pak me stream djem. Faleminderit gjatës edhe njëherë për host shumë bruda, shumë faleminderit vlla. Shumë faleminderit gjatës, të nxjerrëm djem të të giveaway-t, veç pak. Skins, që të giveaway-t, ku janë, 1, 2, 3. Shumë faleminderit gjatës edhe njëherë, shumë faleminderit vlla. Shumë. Për ata që së më njohin djem, jam montazher, kum punu në RTK, tash e kom nis ka pak me stream. Po jena edhe të studiu në fakultet, që shto, tash ka pak me stream e senët, që shto, po këshyrim na i lojsh tash ma jarë, edhe lujna CSGO ka gjamati, që 70 vjet. Nimi vetë, faleminderit kejtve djem, respekte. Që kjo giveaway për sonte djem, 2 thika një përdorës, hajde mas i na ka bu gjoci rejt, për jepëm giveaway-in me të porën. Për jepëm cilën me jep djem, zgjedhën ja, dorës atë porën, a shadova ta na vajen, hajde. Hajde djem, të jepëm giveaway-in direkt bro, direkt, një giveaway, një thik. Zgjedhën cilën me jep djem, zgjedhën, hajde, keyword, subscribe, like, i pjashtojna pak. Hajde djem. Dorëzat. Shadovat. Hajde shadovat për jep me djem. Shkruan e Kate Clash GG. Shkruan e Kate Clash GG në chat. Hajde djem. Le të bëhen që të nga 200 usera edhe për jepëm. Hajde Kate. 3 giveaway e kena son të djem. 3 giveaway e kena son të. Shkruan e Kate Clash GG. Hajde djem. Let's go. Të lëshojnë në muzik të qetë që të babashës. Qfak? Ja pasan orë zonën të gjusëv kejt beq asë po bojnë. Mirë është është. Hajde djem, kejt. Qështu në Clash GG. Të shohemi cili po është në faklia i thikës sot. I shadovat për jep me njerë djem. Shadovat qati. Veç pak. Tash e bojnë arall, për 30 sekonda e bojnë arall djem, për 30 sekonda. A se ki me Twitter, po me Twitter e këm. Fitusi do me thonë qati, do të me maqu që më ka bo follow këto mund në Twitter edhe Clash GG. Like edhe retweet djem. Fitusi giveaway-t. Nëse nuk i ka plëcu këto kushte, do me thonë unlucky për fitusin e giveaway-t, brut. Hajde, babosh, shprebojna rëll. Leonit, aje këtu, brut, aje fitusi thikës Shadow Diggers, brut. A është anti-spam, po, brut. Leonit, ti ki 30 sekonda fat mu lemru në giveaway, brut, 30 sekonda, po, Leoniti do me thonë. Leonit këto, mundësisht që na Twitterin Leonit ta shikojnë brud, a i ke plëcu regullat. Leoniti ka qut 753 mesazha. Leonit, a i këtu bruda. Qa ma Twitterin. Hare djem, tash mas kësoj, a me zgjedhë dhe tjetër me heraj, a me prit një gjësore. Pekëshyrëm sa të najloj djem, që të pekëshyrëm navit me liquidat pekëshyrme. Na i loj interesant edhe gjitujat, ka kanë interesant, po fejzat pse i ke pas kanë lojnë ka gjvan, edhe vitalet e vësejnë, se ka shumë interesant, brud. Shumë ka interesant. Po, në dzene lojën djem, këto lojt kryen bëha njëm do këtë jenë, këto kryen shpejt, në dzene bënejnë, kanë ora 8 janë isë që të herë do më thonë. Kanë ora 8 ose 9 që të herë fix. Leonet, që ma Twitterit ma shpejt brud të shumë, a i ke plëcu reglat e GOE. 2000 persona do më thonë jonë hinë GOE tonë në Twitter. Specialist 032, hajde specialistin të këshirë me e ka bu. është një sekund jam, specialist S'pëta qet brut. S'pëta qet bruta. Specialist 0321. Specialisti. Hajde brut. E ke shumë mirë vlla, se nuk ka të ta qit brut. Nuk ka të ta qit bruta jon. A pe qenë mirë këto ajo brut. Leonit. Edhe një shonë se ki brut edhe e bëj rrallë me herë brut, se s'kam vakt me prit një orë brut, vallaj. E bëj rrallë, edhe një shonë se tuke qenë Twitterit mirë, e bëj rrallë brut, se që shto tu i prit një orë valla s'po mëj, pa shazotën brut. Që shto është type. E pse s'pe qeto brut, tu me konë që temin. Gent Selmoni, qëre brut. Gent Selmoni del me herë brut. Që, o përshe. Tonin s'pe qet. Që, në të herë, ku është? S'pe qet tonin brut. Te followat e to ljepe, hajde. Followers, a mira me këshyrë të followersat. Ja, sën e lypi kështë brut. S'ka shans. Specialistit 0312. Qërë tash, e ndryshoj ju serin, babësh. Kë po, tash po brut. Nalti këshyrë ma ke hinë giveaway. Nadi, retweet. E ka bo like Nadi, për të shumë. Po, e ka bo edhe like, do me thonë. Edhe follow Clash i Gjin, e ke bo brut, t'i këshyrë mi të follow ato Clash i Gjin. Edhe mu. Dhe që pa Clash i Gjin gënë Selmoni, mirë brut. Qa ma trade linkun, do me thonë, ta qojmë skinin direkt, bruta. Qa naj trade linkun, brut. Qa naj trade linkun, brut, do me thonë, direkt ta qojmë thiken, brut, tash. Bojna, brut, vesh një sekund, bro. Vesh dhe i të gjën. Pe presim, amik.
$50-50.
Rules are meant to be broken.
The last CSGO major is well and truly underway. We are halfway through day one here at the Legends stage. We've already had a chance to see some Zaiwu magic, a little heroic, and it's only going to get better as we move into the second round of competition. My name is Tekkel. I'm going to be keeping you company for the rest of the day, and I'm joined on the desk by Maui, Steak, and Pimp. Maui, you got to be hyped after seeing some of the action from this morning.
I'm just glad that a lot of the favorites are winning, because I didn't want a Rio 2.0. I want the favorites there. If it's the last CSGO major, give me the teams that we know and love. Give me the stars that we want to see on the biggest stages, Pimp.
Liquid won their first game, didn't they?
That's the team I want to see.
That's the
Don't
team
you want to see
No,
them?
I'm just saying you wanted the stars, you wanted the good teams to win.
You want to see a Legion Naf there playing?
I would like that. I would like to
Of
see Liquid
course.
playing well go into the playoff. But yeah, it's been very shaky. I would agree with you. Most of the favorites won. I think the only one that stood out to me was Furia. You know, not performing well at all. Absolutely got smacked by Monty. That was a bit of a surprise. But apart from that, good start to the round.
It is kind of Furious style, right? They always start off a little bit slow, and then they get super aggressive. So maybe it'll get better. There's the results on your screen right now. I'm excited about the Fnatic win. I'm not going to lie. I still believe in Crims.
I would say that was a good win for them, because coming into this stage, a lot of people looked at Fnatic's run in the RMR and were saying, did they really actually qualify with through a legitimate means, or was it a bit fraudulent? And now they're proving at least some doubters wrong. Still a long way to go to get to the playoffs. But yeah, looking at the 1-0 and 0-1 matchups, for the most part, there are more or less the teams you'd want to see in 1-0. But in 0-1, like Pimp already said, Furia falling down, that's a bit concerning because NIP, they're going to be no slouches.
There's one game, you know, in the bottom of the screen you have to be a little bit courage about. That is Bad News Eagles taking on G2. We know that matchup have been played out before. We know that there's some internal history, and in an 0-1 scenario for G2 against BNE in a best of one, that is definitely a game that I look forward to see later on today.
These are all the games, of course, that you are going to see during the course of this afternoon. And is there a specific one, Pimp, that you're quite hyped about, other than the one you just mentioned?
Yeah, I think I want to see FaZe bounce back as well. I know they're playing Into the Breach, and we kind of didn't know what to put Into the Breach coming into the tournament. Them being here in the first place at the Legend stage was a big surprise. FaZe got smacked by Heroic, absolutely smacked. Couldn't get anything going on Inferno, so I want to see a bounce back from FaZe. So I'm sure they're going to win. It's just what fashion are they going to win in?
Yeah, I know we're going to talk about this game so much, but of this next round, Na'Vi, Liquid, that to me is a highlight game. That's a marquee matchup there. You've got a lot of history, those teams playing each other for so long. Simple having played on the roster too at some point, but there's so much action that I know we're going to be diving all into.
I want to go back to what you said right at the beginning, Maui, about this not being the Rio 2.0. I am so hyped by seeing how these teams are playing because we do have the Fab Five joining us now. They're all there in the mix. Liquid, I don't know how they did it, but they got on through. This is starting to look like a very competitive Legend stage, and we've only seen one game from the teams.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the level of Counter-Strike we've seen so far in the tournament has been very, very high. It's always shaky in the starters, especially the Challenger stage. Some teams were not as competitive as we would have liked them to be, let's put it that way. But I feel like when you're coming into a Legend stage like this, you have 8 teams who are already warmed up, and then you have some of the big dogs coming into the mix. You're prone to get good quality Counter-Strike, and I think that's what we saw in the first round as well. Sure, certain teams not showing up, FaZe losing to Heroic big time, but we know they all possess a certain amount of quality. So I think, for my money, it's shaping up to be a legendary Legend stage.
If people like FaZe can correct course and find some form, I wouldn't want to worry about them too much just yet. Heroic's a team that are known to be just group stage dominators, a team that is consistently battling in those top 4 spots at basically every big tournament that they join now. So for FaZe to fall to them, yeah, I'm not going to ring the alarm bells. I'm pretty sure that Kerrigan's going to put some things together. But, I mean, who knows? What happened at Rio is possible. But I just think that they've warmed up a little bit, having played the Challenger stage.
I agree. I don't want to ring the alarm bells just yet for this squad, but I think what we learned so far in this tournament is that they're not the favorites to win anymore. And maybe haven't even been at any point, right? Already one best of 3 loss to Inst. They have a best of 1 loss to Heroic in a very clear fashion. FaZe is a team that I think will make the playoff, but it's not a team right now that ounces that energy of we can go all the way, we can win the tournament. They've simply already lost 2 games they shouldn't lose, especially in the fashion they did to Heroic.
Would you not argue, though, that FaZe sometimes is that team that kind of conserves their energy very well? I've always found that they do just enough to get on by, and then when the time comes, the switch goes all the way up. So maybe that's the game plan?
I would agree that has been the case before, but I think they played with fire for a long time now. The performance in Rio wasn't that great. We saw them only being here, the major, down to a last chance qualifier in Europe. Nobody can plan for that. That was more luck than anything else, and I guess based off the fact that everyone else did well in Europe and gave them an extra spot. So I think right now FaZe is just simply not the same team that we used to see.
They are exercising load management. Sometimes they take games off if they don't think that it's too important. I've called them the biggest procrastinators in the space. Yeah. They always seem to get it done at the very end. Just think of how long it took for them to secure that entire Grand Slam, and think about just how many times in the last year when they were winning tournaments that they had to make these monster comebacks. They easily got the title last year of the most clutch team. They were the hardest team to put away, and I would expect that at this major, it's going to be no different. Even if somehow they go 0-2, I just think that everybody is not going to want to face FaZe if they're playing them in a BO3.
So you mentioned no one wants to face FaZe, but how many teams just watched that Zawu play and went, oh, crap?
A lot of teams. Zawu right now, and has been for the vast majority of the year, been the best player in the world. I don't think there's any debate right now. With all the respect to Simple, with all the respect to anyone else basically in the Counter-Strike atmosphere right now, Zawu is just ahead of everyone else. The individual skill he possesses right now, his clutch ability, his stability as well as a player, it's just great to see. And finally, his team is starting to support him a little bit as well. Vitality have won a tournament. They're becoming more and more competitive. So, if we talked about the year 23 being a year between Zawu and Simple, I feel like the first 5 months at least now, and possibly throughout this entire major, it's been all about Zawu. What's
crazy about what Zawu is doing right now is that he's showing growth, because he hit the rookie year that he played running. He was going so fast. capturing not one, but 2 number ones in the world back-to-back. And I would say easily he's a better player now than he was then. I'm starting to see more aggression come out of ZywOo. I'm starting to see him just take more risks and trusting in his own individual ability to a point that he is able to take over games. 30 kills against G2, and the ZywOo of 3 years ago, I could have imagined that he would maybe put up a similar scoreline, but it wouldn't have the same impact. The impact that I saw in this G2 matchup was unbelievable. This clutch in particular to close out the half, you put Shiro in some of these spots and he's just going to be holding. He's just going to be waiting. He's not going to be pushing like this. But look at how ZywOo rips this round out of the clutches of G2. Fantastic stuff.
The bomb is planted even, and he's just hunting them down, eating them alive. And yes, it's great to see ZywOo. I agree with your sentiment that ZywOo today is a better player than he was 2 years ago, and that in itself is very impressive.
The ZywOo fan club has spoken. We've had our conversation, but now we're going to focus in on the first game that you get to see in round 2. This is it. Liquid is taking on Na'Vi, and of course, for many people, Na'Vi, Simple, they're the favorites coming into this. Everyone wants to see one of those Simple moments on a big stage in the last CSGO major.
For Simple and his legacy, you need to see him there. You can't have the all-time greatest player in CSGO not make it to the playoffs. To me, Pimp, I have Na'Vi as my 3-0. I know a lot of people try to make safe picks there for 3-0, but I just have so much faith that Na'Vi are going to deliver. They're going to be coming into this with a massive game plan devised by the likes of Blade and Electronic coming together, and I think that they're peaking at the right time. They're going to be finding that form that they need to in order to show that what earlier happened in this year is not the Na'Vi that is coming into this event.
I'll buy into that. There's very few coaches that oses and ounces the energy that I can build a team up from the ground button, and I think Blade has done that before. With NPL being brought into the lineup, we already saw in the first game that he's changed position now. He's more of an anchor player, not necessarily in the middle of the pack that he used to be. I think that in itself is a very good adjustment for Na'Vi coming into the tournament. And as I said, you know, there's few coaches out there where I think, okay, as long as you have that coach, the team is going to be competitive, and that's the case with Na'Vi as well. You then spice it up with Electronic, who seemingly is becoming more and more comfortable as an in-game leader, and of course Simple, as you mentioned, the all-time great of Counter-Strike. It is a dangerous cocktail, and yes, Na'Vi will remain competitive.
We had a chance to see them against Gamer Legion in round 1. What did you think of that?
I think it was a good performance from Na'Vi. I remember tweeting something along the lines of Na'Vi looked a little bit flustered in the sense that they were overthinking some of the situations. They ended up winning a relatively convincing victory against Gamer Legion, but they lost 3 rounds that was unlosable for them. And I think that's a great sign, because Na'Vi is not meant to beat teams like Gamer Legion. They're not meant to compete against B&E or Into the Breach. That's a team that is built to beat Heroic. It's a team that is built to beat FaZe, the high caliber teams. And I think Na'Vi sometimes have a habit of not knowing how to adjust to a tier 2 or tier 3 team, and yet they still won convincing. So for my money, that was a good performance.
Yeah, winning 16-10 is still impressive. You would have wanted it to be a complete slaughter, but I actually completely agree with what Pimp's saying along the lines that they're actually playing to a level that's almost just unnecessarily complex, and against the best teams in the world, you do need to do that. You need to throw a little bit more misdirection in their way. If you're playing FaZe, if you're playing Heroic, those extra layers are going to win you rounds, and against a team like Gamer Legion, who maybe don't have the most well thought out, well ironed out protocols, actually it'll play into their hands, because they're just not playing at the same level. They're playing 2 different games, whereas Na'Vi is playing chess. To me, Gamer Legion, they're playing checkers. And sometimes if you're playing checkers, you're just going to come out on top, and it's a little bit fortunate, but it was never going to be a full win for Gamer Legion, so Na'Vi got the job done.
They did get the job done, and of course, Pimp mentioned him earlier, Blade, their coach, absolutely phenomenal what he's been able to do with this lineup, and it's going to be exciting to see what happens as we move through the Blast TV major. Banks caught up with him to find out what he thinks about the matchup with Liquid.
Blade, after the first round, Dinko told me that you said you were kind of happy with the lead up to the major, but it was only like 6 out of 10 with where the team's at. You before have said to me many times that Na'Vi, as the games go, as things get better, you guys improve. Do you feel like you're in a position where there's big mistakes that are going to be harder to fix this time? Where would you say it's at?
I don't know. The last match, I don't see like huge mistakes, something like you cannot fix. I think it's normal mistakes.
Okay. And what have you told the guys between this map and going into the next game as well? What have you guys been working on? What have you guys been doing?
Before this match, we were watching other games and thinking about the veto, discussing the game plan.
And do you feel much pressure coming into this game against Liquid? They have changed in-game leader, and I'm wondering if you think they have they changed much at all when you've looked at them, when you've reviewed them?
Well, Liquid is different. I don't know. Liquid is always playing good individual,
okay.
And they are always dangerous in that term. but I don't think they're like in the best shape now. Like at the same time, you can say the same for us. But we showed some consistency this year, and I think last time we won versus them also in Katowice.
Would you say, though, the change of Nitro now not being IGL for this tournament, Yakinda coming in, have you seen anything huge that's changed, anything massively different, or is it expecting the same Liquid?
I don't know. We must to analyze like really deeply like which map. I don't think like he is calling on all maps. As far as I understood, it's like some maps. I just think Anubis, maybe Nuke.
So you're just waiting to see how it goes?
Obviously, man.
Lovely, Blade. Thank you very much.
There is like a level of quiet confidence to Blade that I'm enjoying. It's so, like,
Yeah.
he's just like, there's a smirk there. He knows he wants to get to the main stage. You obviously heard him chatting a bit about Liquid, these role changes, which did them dirty, I would say, during the challenges. But obviously now we've seen the veto as well. Blade doesn't seem too worried. Are you, Maui?
For Na'Vi or for Liquid, am I worried?
For Liquid.
For Liquid, I'm a little worried. This is a map that they did make a couple shifts with in terms of positions. They took NAF away from Pit. They put Nitro in Pit now. And I think that when you have Nitro, one of the weaker performers for Liquid, in a spot that is so pivotal to A-side defenses, that should be a focus for Na'Vi. If they've done their research and watched that game that Liquid played against Greyhound, they'll know those changes, and I think that they might actually target that in their game plan. That's probably actually something that they have to do, because now that NAF Yukindar defense at B, that's scary stuff. Those are two big fraggers for Liquid. And so in some ways, I think it made the map a little more lopsided for Liquid. They've decided that they want to almost forego that A-side defense a little bit more, really focus on B, and we'll see if Na'Vi are able to come up with what they need to in order to actually dismantle this new look out of Liquid.
Pimp, interestingly enough with Liquid, obviously, during the challenger stage, they had what most would argue is a relatively easy run, and yet they struggled. That's very quickly changed going up against Na'Vi. Do you think that that'll bring out the best in Liquid?
I think this is the first real test in the sense that now we figure out what level can Liquid play at. We've seen the floor has been very, very low. They were close, very close to losing to Fluxo in an 0-2 game and go out before it even became interesting, right? The only team, by the way, in the tournament to lose a map to Fluxo who played some horrible Counter-Strike, let's be honest. So no, the floor is very, very low for Team Liquid, but this is a test of how high the floor is. I think what they've shown ever since that game has been amazing. I think the convincing win against Complexity and Greyhound gave me a bit of confidence. The way they dismantled 9 today as well with a T-side overpass looked very, very solid. And then we have to talk a bit about NAF as well, playing some of the best Counter-Strike we've seen NAF play in a very long time. So there is a lot of stuff pointing in the right direction for Team Liquid, but do they have the ceiling in order to compete with a team like Na'Vi? That's the one question mark I still want answered.
Maui, do they have the ceiling?
Short answer, yes. Reason, because we have so much more to get out of Elige. We have more to get out of Yukindar. In that challenger stage, I really wasn't actually too much of a fan of what Elige was bringing to the table. He had some impactful rounds in some of the series that they were able to win, but he was rarely at the top of the scoreboard, where it was NAF who was really stealing the show there. And for Elige to be one of the greatest players to ever come out of North America, to be looking at this major as his chance, NAF's chance, Nitro's chance to capture their first major, despite the fact that they are the only Grand Slam winners to have never won a major. They know what's on the line here in terms of their legacies, and so I think that they should have renewed confidence based off of their most recent victories, and they should be looking at the greater picture of what's going on here and say, yes, we should be able to take the fight to Na'Vi if we want to have a chance to actually rewrite the history books in terms of what we accomplished in this game.
I think that shake-up during challenges, or the horrific performance that they had, was possibly the wake-up call that they needed, so that we can see the Liquid of old that we're kind of hoping will play here.
Most definitely, and that's what it feels like being a Liquid fan, I guess, and I think a lot of people out there can confess to that. It's never nice, it's never fun, it's never easy to be a Liquid fan.
The blood pressure's crazy.
That's just the way it is. It goes up and down all the time. For some reason, they need a kick in the butt sometimes in order to get going. So yes, I think it was exactly what they needed. I think Yakinda said it pretty well in one of the interviews as well, that he actually felt it was a good thing. And once they beat Fluxo, they were sure that they were going to make it. So yeah, I don't know why it has to be like that, but for a Liquid fan, nothing new under the sun.
For a Liquid fan, they're used to the heartbreak. They're ready for this. Their blood pressure's going through the roof. Banks caught up with Elige. Let's find out what he had to say moving into the Legend stage.
So obviously the information's come out of Elige that we've got the kind of change between Nitro and Yukindar on some maps. We know the reasons why, but I want to just talk in detail of how much of a change you feel that has been, and maybe that's why you got off to a slow start. What did it take for you guys to feel more comfortable again?
Well, I don't really think that it was anything because of the calling why we had a slow start. I think it was more of like communication, pressure, nerve type of thing for why we had a slow start. I think with Yakinda calling, I think that we have more of a faster style, like in general. So I think that's been like the main change.
Playing at Yakinda's pace then, for sure, I'm guessing. Now, I want to ask you, does it feel like you're over the speed bumps, or does it feel nice to get the best of one win straight away here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it felt good, like continuing the showing that we had from like the last couple matches in the challenger stage. So from like showing like the form that we had against Complexity and Greyhound in like the 9 game as well, where I think most have a good win earlier today. And I think that it's just us having all those games played is an advantage for us compared to like some other teams that are definitely starting slower. Like you can just see it, like the teams that like some of them that, you know, only came in for the legend stage, they didn't have as much like play time as us, and I think it's like helping us a lot and hopefully going to win us this game today.
And talking about that game today, it's going up against Na'Vi now in a best of 1. Where do you feel your chances are at with it in terms of the individual level you guys are showing at the moment? Because it seems like everyone's back to where we need them to be. So do you think this is where you can push them over?
Yeah, during the boot camp we played them a couple times. We played well in that. I think that we're finally showing up in this tournament. So I think it is all lining up for us to play really well. I know that this match is obviously going to be the hardest game that we played so far. This is going to be obviously
more par for the course 1-1 type route for the other. Fnatic dispatching of ninjas in pajamas, and Monty not just with a victory but a blowout against Furia.
That was on Ancient too. It was a really very strong map, and they were one of the teams that
time game in there as well. So there is these chances in it. So do you feel like you can maybe throw them off balance in some way?
I mean, I think so. I think that they haven't played against like our new style. Obviously, like you can't do so much new things in CS. Like there's only so much that you can do from like playing these maps for so long. But I think that the change of pace that like we include in a lot of our rounds on T side, it has been really helpful for us, especially in practice. I think that like our T sides have been really good. So yeah.
Surprisingly confident from Elige, considering the situation that they saw themselves in the challenges. Like he said, had a little bit of a warm-up, but we just saw Na'Vi. I don't think that they needed the warm-up, Pimp. It looks like they're feeling pretty confident as well.
Yeah, Na'Vi is a scary beast, right? It is one of those teams that we knew were the predetermined favorites to at least go into the playoff and possibly even win the entire thing. So yes, it is the first real test for Team Liquid. One thing I was noticing right here in the interview, and something I've seen on HLTV for that matter, Twitter, Reddit, you name it, is the whole, you know, conversation about Yakinda and Nitro and the switch of being in-game leader within that lineup. I'm just thinking to myself, have you guys not watched them play the last half years, right? The last 6 months, whenever you look towards Team Liquid, whenever you see these two players in real life, Yakinda is talking easily as much as Nitro. I don't think there's been a big change-up within Team Liquid. I think they maybe have discussed that sometimes it's great if Yakinda can be the in-game leader or be a little bit more vocal on certain maps where Nitro needs a bit of help, but that's been the case for the last 6 months as well. Yakinda is a big voice within Team Liquid, and nothing has really changed during that bootcamp. People are blowing it out of proportion.
I think that's actually how I'm reading the situation too, Pimp. I think that the team has been working with Yakinda as the in-game leader for some time in certain matchups. What's changed now, from at least what I've read and heard, is that it's more just kind of map to map with Yakinda. But I know for sure that versus teams like, say, Cloud9 or teams like Outsiders, it was Yakinda that was calling for Liquid before, and this was basically the closest we have to any tier 1 team where it's dual IGL roles, where it's split depending on map, depending on feeling, and they've also said something along the lines of just that whoever's feeling it is going to make the call. And I think that kind of lead by committee is probably actually hindering Liquid in some ways, but the fact that they can actually just crowdsource the ideas a little bit more means that people are willing to speak up, and sometimes that actually can help communication out too. If you can actually just work together, put together a joint plan, then you actually have a higher ceiling in terms of tactical depth, but it's just like, who are you going to follow on round 15, 14? That's where, to me, it's a little bit scary for Liquid. If this game comes incredibly close, then who's going to make that final call? Who's going to have the final say? And that's where, to me, it's a little bit up in the air.
But it does speak into what we're talking about Team Liquid as well, because as you said, it raises the ceiling, but it lowers the floor, and that's the issue with Team Liquid. We never really know what to expect from them.
We don't know what to expect, but like Elige said, he doesn't think that the changes were the issue here. He specifically mentioned it's just a communication thing. They were warming up. I have a question for you, but before we do that, I actually have a question for you. Which player do you want to see from Liquid interviewed in the overtime show today? You can go vote on blast.tv. I have a list of questions for all of them, so I wouldn't be able to vote. But this is
who would you vote for?
Who would I vote for?
Yeah, who would you vote for? Who would you vote for?
But there's like, I have a question for each of them.
Get Neff in there. Neff is fun. Neff is hilarious.
You want Neff?
You want fun. I have questions. I have questions about what happened in challenges.
I don't care about your questions.
You see. What a great start to the desk. Pimp is like, I don't care what you have to say.
The camaraderie is unmatched on this trio.
What a team. What a team. Yeah. Pimp, you've upset me and hurt my feelings. No, just kidding. Okay. On the liquid question.
This is going to make headlines.
Yeah. That's going to get cut. It's going to be all over the internet. But there we go. On the question of liquid, Elige doesn't seem too phased. Could it have just been a nerves communication thing? Mario, put it to you too. And are we all just making, like Pimp said, just a big deal out of nothing?
The fact that they were down 0-2 and in close games means to me that I wasn't so worried. I think I immediately sent a tweet out about what Liquid accomplished, or actually failed to accomplish, on day one of the Challenger stage, going down 0-2. And I was like, this team is better in BO3s. They have experienced players, and sometimes it just takes a little bit to get going with them, to get off the starting block. And that's kind of what they showed. I'd say that all of the 3 series after that were relatively convincing. I don't know why the Fluxo one was as close as it was, but in terms of Greyhound and complexity, there was no worry whatsoever at any point in those that Liquid wasn't just going to be steamrolling those teams.
The Fluxo argument, Pimp, I mean, could it have just been that they were feeling very down, the results hadn't gone their way? You know how it goes sometimes, momentum, emotion in the team, because they fixed it very quickly after the Fluxo game.
I think it is a lack of confidence. It's a lack of self-belief, and it is that, you know, downward spiral that you sometimes get into as a Counter-Strike player. They've lost 2 games. You said it yourself, they were close, both the games they were losing. I'd argue the Apex one wasn't that close, but at least the Force one got down to the nitty-gritty. So, yeah, sometimes as a player, you lose a bit of that belief, you lose a bit of self-confidence as well. But once you get it back, you see what's happening to this lineup. You saw what happened to Neff as well as an individual. Right now, he's probably the one player standing out of everyone to be an MVP contender, out of all the players who's just from start to finish, apart from that very first game against Apex, has been delivering at a very high level. But it still begs the question, and I think that's the counter-argument. They haven't done it against any of the best team of the tournament, and we need to see that now.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. We've hyped up Liquid lots and lots, but the truth is, can they actually beat Na'Vi in this, Maui?
If I'm giving you the skinny on this one, I've got Na'Vi. I really think that they're coming in with the right mindset, with the preparation that they needed in order to put their best foot forward. And in some ways, I actually believe Blade. I think that he does see a future where Electronic can be a better in-game leader than Boomich. And if they've already won a major with Boomich, what are they going to do with an in-game leader that's even better in Blade's eyes?
I want a hyper competitive game. I want a Liquid that can play up to the test of Na'Vi. I also do think Na'Vi is the better team. I think they're going to win this game, but I wouldn't mind it being close.
Do you think that Liquid can do it, though? Because I'm concerned after seeing them on the Challenger stage.
I think Liquid, if they continue the progress they've shown so far, and if Na'Vi makes some of the same uncharacteristical mistakes they did against Gamer Legion, then yes, I think there's a world where Liquid wins this game, but I don't think it's going to be today.
The Liquid Na'Vi matchup is coming your way. This is it. Of course, these teams want to get that win under them. It's going to make their way to the stadium a little bit easier. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, Sponge and Machine are going to take you into game.
Round 2. Let's go for a rival, I guess.
So we got 1 for Europe. So now I'm beating the game, and I think we're going to North America. So I am going to say Elige. Okay, never mind.
Let's type Bit. He's AK-47.
Older than 25.
He's not from Ukraine.
So there's a big chance he's a guy from Brazil. So I'm actually gonna say Cold Zero. But is Cold Zero old enough?
I'll go for Shocks. Rain. I will write Rain.
He's older than 27.
The mystery player is older. Let's go, guess right. He played more than 14 majors. Insane, who is this guy?
Actually, a European guy, maybe. He's very old. Maybe it's myself. Damn, I'm getting old.
a whole different vibe. There's a tension, but there's also an excitement because
Yeah.
the level of Counter-Strike has just gone up a notch or two. Today has already delivered, and I hope this next matchup, Na'Vi versus Liquid, quite a historic matchup when you consider some of the names in the server